Share stories that lift you up and brighten your day.
The Uplift. Stream on the free CBS News app.
Well, good morning and welcome to CBS News Mornings. It is 7 o'clock here in New York City. I'm Anne-Marie Green, and here's a look at the stories grabbing our attention right now. The President and First Lady will travel to Buffalo this morning as new details emerge about how the man accused of the worst racial massacre in recent American history was able to plan, prepare, and evade New York's red flag law protections. The manufacturer at the heart of a nationwide baby formula recall has reached a new deal with the FDA to reopen its production plant. So we're going to tell you who still needs to sign off on it and when you could see formula back on the shelves. Breaking overnight, Elon Musk's deal to buy Twitter is on hold. We're going to tell you why spam bot accounts are being blamed for the delay. Plus, polls are opening up in Pennsylvania this morning, where voters will cast their ballots in the state primary election. We are tracking all the big races, including the U.S. Senate, Congress, and gubernatorial. Plus, we'll give you a closer look at yesterday's fiery cross-examination of actress Amber Heard.
He was making this gesture around my face to try to expose my face to him, and he was like, yeah, let me see how bad I hurt you. Let me see it. Let me see how bad I hurt you this time. What if I pull your hair back?
We'll give you a recap of her first day back on the stand in the $50 million defamation lawsuit with ex-husband Johnny Depp. So we have a lot to get to this hour, but we are going to start with that mass shooting in Buffalo, New York. In about an hour, President Biden will travel to the scene of the crime. And this comes as new details emerge about the 18-year-old who's accused of killing 10 black people at a supermarket in what authorities call a racially motivated attack. Our Bradley Blackburn is there with the very latest this morning. Bradley, good morning.
Anne-Marie, good morning. The suspect's online history suggests he had been thinking about this attack and plotting it for months, planning to target an African-American neighborhood and live stream his attack. Well, today, President Biden comes here to Buffalo to stand with this neighborhood and condemn that attack as terrorism.
President Biden and the First Lady visit Buffalo, New York today, 3 days after police say a white gunman went on a racially motivated shooting spree, killing 10 black people and injuring 3 others at a grocery store.
What we want to do is making sure that we send a very clear message that hate must have no safe harbor.
A White House official tells CBS News Mr. Biden will call the shooter's actions terrorism, motivated by a hateful and perverse ideology, and he will urge Congress to pass new gun control legislation.
And it's hard.
Yesterday, the president paid tribute to Aaron Salter, a 55-year-old retired police lieutenant who worked as a security guard at the Tops supermarket.
He actually was able to shoot the assailant twice, but he had on a bulletproof vest, and he lost his life in the process.
For no reason. For no reason.
86-year-old Ruth Whitfield was the oldest victim. Her son says she was buying groceries after visiting her husband at a nearby nursing home.
What I love most about my mom is how she loved us, how she loved our family.
The suspect pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder over the weekend. He's now under suicide watch in jail.
And we're learning the suspect was able to legally buy his rifle despite those past violent threats against his high school, Anne-Marie.
But this is what I don't understand, Bradley. New York has these red flag laws. They're supposed to stop people from possessing guns if they, have been shown to be a threat to themselves or to others. You'd think he would have fallen under that. How was he able to get the firearms?
Yeah, these laws, Anne-Marie, were put in place after previous mass shootings to prevent just this kind of incident. So there are real questions here. Why did this previous contact with law enforcement and educators not trigger red flag warnings? The state police here in New York say that there was no request in place for this suspect. So Even Governor Hochul is asking questions about this. Why wasn't it reported? Why wasn't it caught by the system?
And we are seeing that over and over again, even in other shootings, that, that people don't follow the systems completely, or they don't have the ability to. They don't have, you put it in one computer, but it doesn't talk to another computer. I'm sure we're going to talk about all of this later on and throughout, the rest of the week. One more question before I let you go. The president and the first lady is heading to where you are. What more can you tell us about their visit today?
He arrives here about 10:30 this morning, and we expect the president to come here first to the grocery store, to the site of a memorial just down the block. After that, we know that he'll meet with families to comfort them before delivering some public remarks. So we expect, as we said in the package, President Biden to echo calls for gun control. But Anne-Marie, the reality is that after many of these past shootings, if past is prologue, it does very little to change the gridlock in Washington on the issue.
Yeah, indeed. I will not hold my breath, Bradley. Thank you very much. Well, employees of the top supermarket gathered for grief counseling at a local library yesterday. Fragrance Harris Stanfield is a cashier who was working alongside her daughter when the first shots rang out. She spoke with evening news anchor Nora O'Donnell about surviving the horrific massacre.
I think it's horrible. I think it's horrible. I don't like to give my energy to things that are these kinds of agendas, so I don't talk about that part as much as I talk about how we're going to keep moving forward from this. We don't appreciate anyone coming into our community. He doesn't even live here. Coming into our community thinking that he's going to stop us from being resilient. And he's just not going to get to do that. Not here.
Well, turning now to one of the other mass shootings this past weekend, the one in California. Investigators say that killer was also motivated by hate. David Cho is the man accused of going on a deadly shooting rampage in a Presbyterian church in Southern California. Later this morning, he's expected to face a judge. Lori Perez from CBS News Los Angeles has more on the accused killer, the victims, and the hero whose bravery cost him his life.
I do predict that he was there to kill everybody in that room. I do believe that.
Investigators are piecing together terrifying details of what they think 68-year-old Las Vegas security guard David Cho had in mind when he entered Geneva Presbyterian Church Sunday and shot 6 people, killing 1. While Taiwanese congregants were gathered at a luncheon to honor a former pastor, law enforcement says the suspect was closing off exits and lying in wait with 2 handguns.
The suspect was able to secure the doors within the church with chains and tried to disable locks within the church with super glue.
The sheriff says they found hidden bags of ammo and firebombs similar to Molotov cocktails around the church center. Even veteran law enforcement was stunned.
One of the most horrific hate crimes I've seen.
The FBI has now opened a federal hate crime investigation. The suspect came to the U.S. from China years ago. His wife and child still live there. Investigators don't know how he chose this Laguna Woods church specifically, but they suspect they know why.
That this individual was acting alone, and we do know that based on information we've collected, and I'm not going to go into the details of that evidence, was a politically motivated hate incident, a grievance that this individual had between himself and the Taiwanese community at large.
Out of a crime of hate, a hero has emerged. Investigators think moments after the suspect shot a 92-year-old man, an 86-year-old woman, and 3 other men, aged 82, 75, and 66, 52-year-old Dr. John Chang, who was there with his recently widowed mom, tackled him.
And then Dr. Chang's sitting there, right, as the youngest guy in the room thinking, I got to do something to stop this. So he charges, he gets shot, and then the gun gets disabled.
A move that authorities believe saved lives, giving others a moment to subdue the suspect. Chang died on the scene.
Well, the New York Times reports that the FDA could authorize Pfizer's COVID booster shot for young kids as early as today. This would apply to children ages 5 to 11. Pfizer cited data showing a 3rd dose increased protection against the original virus and the Omicron variant. As of right now, kids 12 and older can get a booster shot 5 months after receiving their 2nd shot. Meanwhile, the FDA announced plans to ease the baby formula shortage after weeks of parents scrambling for solutions. Abbott Laboratories is one of the top formula manufacturers in the country. The company finally reached an agreement to reopen its plant in Michigan after being closed for months over possible bacterial contamination. And this also comes as the FDA eases import rules. This will allow international manufacturers to ship their formula to the states. And now to Ukraine, where Russia says the brutal siege of Mariupol is finally over as the war escalates across the country. After weeks of intense fighting, more than 200 fighters holed up in the facility were evacuated to areas held by Russian-backed rebels. Meantime, the Senate agreed yesterday on a bill to get more heavy artillery and weapons to Ukraine. Skylar Henry has more from Capitol Hill.
The Senate has voted to begin consideration of the nearly $40 billion Ukraine aid package.
We have a moral obligation to pass this assistance as soon as we can in the Senate.
The House passed the measure overwhelmingly last week, but Kentucky GOP Senator Rand Paul blocked the Senate's attempt to follow suit, calling for more oversight. After a visit to Ukraine's capital Kyiv over the weekend, top Senate Republicans met with the leaders of Sweden and Finland, expressing support to both countries as they seek to join NATO.
There's never been a more successful military alliance than NATO. Finland brings a lot to the alliance.
Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says Congress will move quickly to ratify both countries' membership to NATO, though one member, Turkey, has expressed concerns.
We believe in NATO's open door policies and the right of each country to decide its own future.
Monday, Russian President Vladimir Putin said Finland and Sweden joining NATO poses no immediate threat, though he added an expansion of military equipment to the region would prompt a response. Meanwhile, U.S. defense officials confirm Ukrainian forces have successfully repelled Russian forces from Ukraine's second-largest city of Kharkiv, but the airstrikes continue. Blasts in the port city of Odessa injured a child and 2 adults.
Violence erupted again in Jerusalem yesterday during a funeral procession for a Palestinian man who died from injuries he sustained in clashes with Israeli troops last month. Tensions have been rising since Israel began conducting raids in the West Bank in March, following the deaths of 3 police officers and a security guard they say were killed in Arab attacks. Last week, Palestinian-American reporter Shireen Abu Akleh was killed while covering one such raid. An investigation is underway to find out if she was killed in the crossfire by Israeli troops during the operation. And it is primary day in several states across the country, and we are keeping a close eye on key Senate races, especially in Pennsylvania. We'll explain why the stakes are so high in this particular showdown. That's coming up next. Plus, Memorial Day weekend is right around the corner, and gas prices are soaring more than ever. Find out if there will be any relief in sight. That's coming up later on in our Money Watch segment. We'll be right back.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
Incredibly big!
The metaverse, the virtual world that's become a cryptocurrency casino.
It's like buying property on Mars.
Do they get an actual picture of this? No, it's a digital copy. Why would they pay for that?
Making millionaires almost overnight.
We made more than $1 million in crypto last year. I have no idea how much money I have made over the past year. That's like, wow!
Big rewards.
There's gold in them, there are hills, as they say.
Bigger risks.
The market's down, but it's gonna bounce back. It's crypto.
Is it a gold rush or fool's gold?
It's our metaverse, our story. Peace out, y'all.
An original documentary from CBS Reports. Stream now.
I'm Nora O'Donnell in our nation's capital. We're here at the White House with the President of the United States.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You've never done an interview like this before.
That's correct.
Tonight, a congressional investigation sparked by reporting from CBS News. What's your message to consumers?
They need help now. Tell him I feel it.
The CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell from Washington, D.C. on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
We will witness yet another moment in history.
This week on 60 Minutes,
That's incredible.
The 60 minutes.
60 minutes. 60 minutes.
Are you ready for some tough questions?
Let me ask you this.
you know how this sounds.
What's your response to that?
60 Minutes Sundays on CBS.
The threat of severe weather and dangerous tornadoes is expected to last.
Let's get the forecast from our partners at the Weather Channel. Here we are in our virtual view.
Now 6 feet of water, imagine that. Cars that can act like battering rams.
These hyper-realistic simulations show you what the weather will look and feel like before it happens.
This is our virtual view, what it actually looks like.
Those are some of the best graphics I've seen.
Spare no expense, Gail.
We experience the weather in a whole new way.
Go to the ends of the earth.
Right now.
We got something crazy. And reach for the stars.
Here we are.
Time.
Yes, it's my comeback.
Hey, this is pretty fun.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking.
Welcome to the idea of being a human being.
Innovative and truly original reporting.
Look through a telescope and go, wow.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
People from every corner of America facing challenges.
Everyone is just looking for some type of connection.
Just raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to help.
Coming together to find solutions.
We are going to do something about it.
Their stories are our stories.
Welcome to Eye on America.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
We have an inspiring story that started with a strange act of kindness.
Yeah. We found it.
You're kidding me!
We share stories that lift you up and brighten your day.
The Uplift. Stream on the free CBS News app.
Man, that's a beautiful skyline, isn't it? It is 6:15 a.m. in Chicago. That's what we're looking at. That's where the mayor will implement a 10 p.m. weekend curfew and other restrictions for minors after a teenager was shot and killed at a park over the weekend. Those new rules go into effect on Thursday. Meantime, it is 7:15 here in New York City. CBS News Mornings is back with a look at some of the stories that you may have missed while you were offline. The U.S. successfully tested a hypersonic weapon on Saturday. According to the Air Force, it traveled 5 times faster than the speed of sound. U.S. officials have admitted challenges have plagued the hypersonic weapons program. Meanwhile, Russia has said that it deployed similar weapons in Ukraine. One of the biggest NATO drills to ever happen in the Baltics is underway. The exercises in Estonia include Finland and Sweden, which are expected to formally join the alliance soon. NATO planned the drills before Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine. In North Korea, more than 1.4 million people have fallen ill in what's believed to be a massive COVID outbreak. The government has confirmed some cases of the virus, but limited testing means that it's unclear exactly how many of those people have COVID. Well, the U.S. is changing its policy on Cuba, lifting some restrictions put in place during the Trump administration. Under the new measures, it will be easier to travel to the island. The U.S. will also remove limits on sending money to family members in Cuba. Donations to non-family members will also be permitted, but the government says that it will carefully monitor those payments. In addition, Customs will speed up the visa process for Cubans traveling to the U.S. At nearly 300,000 acres, the Hermit's Peak fire is now the largest in New Mexico history. More than 2,000 people are currently battling the flames, which are 27% contained. Meanwhile, skyrocketing temperatures are hitting the south, so we're going to bring in meteorologist Jim Cantori from our partners at the Weather Channel. Jim, what places are feeling the heat the most?
And good morning, Anne Marie. The heat continues here. Spring, nope. Summer, yes, especially for the state of Texas. We're talking about more record highs possible. And it's not just 90 or 95. It's over 100 degrees in a lot of cases in through here. So a lot of folks, of course, out driving around, running their errands. Your car really heats up. Let's take a look at our scorching hot car index here. Look at this, 103 in Abilene. That's outside. That's in the shade. You get this sun in your car in 10 minutes. It's 122 degrees. Look at that. In 30 minutes, it's almost 140 degrees. All right, with all this heat and the moisture that's coming in out of the Gulf of Mexico, we're going to see some showers and some thunderstorms develop as we have a disturbance that's going to be coming out of the Rockies and interacting with that. The problem is a lot of this is going to occur as we go through the overnight hours, okay? So that's going to be something that we're going to be dealing with. Let's talk about this. Here's our look at severe weather today and what we expect to develop. We've already got some thunderstorms this morning in Oklahoma, some of these up into parts of South Dakota, but it's really this afternoon and this evening that we'll be looking at storm development in Nebraska and then pushing down through the Kansas City metro area. We do have a damaging wind threat for the Kansas City metro area. The problem is it doesn't come until the middle of the night. So a lot of you are going to be caught off guard as a result of that. So here we go. Initiation 7 to 10 p.m. All of this comes together in all sorts of different modes of severe weather racing down toward Kansas City. And I'll tell you, if this kind of sits around and doesn't get moving, we're also talking about a flood threat in through here before all this heads east tomorrow. And that means places like southern Illinois, also into Kentucky, Ohio, northern Tennessee, may not only get damaging winds, but also the threat for some heavy rain. You can catch all-day coverage featuring our virtual view technology on the Weather Channel television network.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. You can also get the latest on the weather in your area on the CBS News app. Our app gives you access to all of our CBS News national and local streams for free anytime, anywhere. Well, here we go. Today, voters across 5 states will be casting their ballots in closely watched primary elections. There are a handful of notable races today. Pennsylvania will hold its Senate primaries along with a Republican primary for the state's next governor. In North Carolina, Congressman Ted Budd will look to cash in his endorsement by former President Trump in the state's GOP Senate primary. And freshman Republican Congressman Madison Cawthorn will need to beat a deep field to represent the state of North Carolina once again. He's had a rough few weeks, I'll say. Now we're going to hone in on Pennsylvania, though. Robert Costa has been watching the race for us in Bucks County, which is just north of Philadelphia.
You're going to send Dr. Oz to fight for you in the U.S. Senate?
Today in Pennsylvania, President Trump's power in GOP politics is facing its latest test. The former president-backed celebrity Dr. Mehmet Oz, who's locked in a 3-way race in the state's hotly contested Republican Senate primary.
How will you convince voters in the final days that you are the true Trump candidate?
President Trump, when he endorsed me, said I was smart, tough, and would never let you down.
But Oz is fending off a late surge by conservative commentator Kathy Barnett. Barnett's rise has brought new scrutiny of her record and controversial past statements, which were anti-Muslim and homophobic. As these images emerge that show Barnett in Washington on the day of the January 6 attacks.
I was not with the Proud Boys. I was out there because I wanted to hear what the president had to say.
A campaign spokesman told CBS News Barnett had no connection to the violence that day at the Capitol.
Did former President Trump pick the wrong person in this race?
Absolutely. But listen, he is not Jesus, so he gets to be wrong. And on this, he's wrong.
Still, her rivals, like businessman and former George W. Bush administration official David McCormick, insist she doesn't have the track record to win.
But Kathy's been tested. She was tested in the last 24 months in a congressional seat, which she lost by 20 points.
As for what is motivating Republicans, there is one thing they agree on.
That everything that Trump did, Biden just came in and destroyed. And I'm looking for a turnaround.
Meanwhile, the Democratic frontrunner, Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, will miss his own election night event. His wife, Giselle, will represent him after he suffered a stroke Friday night.
I just wasn't feeling very well, so I decided, you know what, I need to get checked out, so I went to the hospital.
I need to get checked out, because I was right, as always.
Yeah, and that's actually the video that they made the day after we found out that he had suffered a stroke. He looks pretty good. There were no cognitive effects at all. And so it looks like it's going to go at least well for him health-wise. He will not be able to attend any of the parties, whether they are celebratory or otherwise, today, though. I think we have Robert Costa standing by. Yes, you are. There you are. All right, let's dig into what is going on in Pennsylvania, because it's really interesting. We had these 2 candidates, one very well known, Mehmet Oz, very well known outside of Pennsylvania, and then now coming up right down the middle, threatening to kind of split up the vote, is a new candidate. How was she able to gain so much momentum this late in the race?
The political dynamics here are intriguing because Dr. Mehmet Oz wins the Trump endorsement.
And in some primaries, that would be more than enough to carry a candidate across the finish line. Then you had David McCormick, a favorite of traditional Republicans, the party establishment in Washington. He was also positioning himself in the race as an ally of the former president, and it was looking to be a two-person race, McCormick versus Oz, even though Oz had the endorsement to be the favorite of the Trump coalition. But Trump voters in Pennsylvania, the base of the party in the Commonwealth, have had suspicions about both Oz and McCormick when it comes to their innate conservatism. Are they really Trump people in the eyes of the core supporters of the former president? And among those concerns, as those concerns have really developed, you've seen Kathy Barnett with a very strong message on abortion come forward from the conservative side, the hard right of the party, and emerge as a real contender in the final days.
So then, if former President Trump's endorsement is not enough to put Dr. Oz over the top, can we read anything into that? Or, maybe the other candidates are somewhat flawed, and certainly Kathy Barnett, I mean, you can say a lot of things about her, but she's definitely very conservative.
Usually when a candidate endorses somebody, like former President Trump or a major political figure endorses somebody and their candidate loses, it's seen as a defeat for their version of politics. That, for example, if Trump loses with his candidate in Pennsylvania, it would usually be seen as a defeat of Trumpism. But that's not the case here in Pennsylvania. It would be a test of his political capital today. Can he actually make candidates who are struggling, can he bring them to victory? But Trumpism still is pervasive inside the Republican Party in Pennsylvania and nationally. This is still a party that has been shaped by the former president, populist and nationalist, unapologetic about calling the 2020 election rigged, making false claims about it being stolen and rigged. This is all still part of the GOP. So win or lose today with Mehmet Oz, Trump remains a force to be reckoned with inside the GOP.
And I will say, it seemed, at least from what I've heard, the former president is shying away from being overly critical of Barnett, which I think maybe says something about how he feels the race may go. Robert, thank you very much. Parents are weighing in on the nationwide baby formula shortage. Coming up next, I'll be speaking to a new mom about how she is dealing with this crisis after one formula company announced an agreement to reopen its facility and resume production. And coming up later on Red and Blue, CBS News political analyst and Republican strategist Leslie Sanchez joins us to discuss the so-called Great Replacement Theory and how the alleged Buffalo shooter apparently used the racist far-right conspiracy to fuel his deadly rampage. We're going to discuss how this hateful theory made its way into mainstream U.S. politics. You can stream that conversation in our 6 p.m. Eastern hour. We'll be right back.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
It's gonna be big!
The metaverse, the virtual world that's become a cryptocurrency casino.
It's like buying property on Mars.
Do they get an actual picture of this? No, it's a digital copy. Why would they pay for that?
Making millionaires almost overnight.
We made more than $1 million in crypto last year. I have no idea how much money I have made over the past year. That's like, wow!
Big rewards.
There's gold in them, there are hills, as they say.
Bigger risks.
The market's down, but it's gonna bounce back. It's crypto.
Is it a gold rush or fool's gold?
It's our metaverse, our story. Peace out, y'all.
An original documentary from CBS Reports. Stream now.
I'm Nora O'Donnell in our nation's capital. We're here at the White House with the President of the United States.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You've never done an interview like this before.
That's correct.
Tonight, a congressional investigation sparked by reporting from CBS News. What's your message to consumers?
They need help now. Tell him I feel it.
The CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell from Washington, D.C. on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
We will witness yet another moment in history.
This week on 60 Minutes,
that's incredible.
The 60 Minutes.
60 Minutes, 60 Minutes.
Are you ready for some tough questions? Let me ask you this.
You know how this sounds.
What's your response to that?
60 Minutes Sundays on CBS.
The threat of severe weather and dangerous tornadoes is expected to last.
Let's get the forecast from our partners at the Weather Channel. Here we are in our virtual view.
Now 6 feet of water, imagine that. Cars that can act like battering rams.
These hyper-realistic simulations show you what the weather will look and feel like before it happens.
This is our virtual view, what it actually looks like.
Those are some of the best graphics I've seen.
Spare no expense, Gail.
We experience the weather in a whole new way.
Go to the ends of the earth.
Right now.
We got something crazy. And reach for the stars.
Here we are.
Time.
Yes, it's my comeback.
Hey, this is pretty fun.
But wait, there's more. Experience thought-provoking,
Welcome to the idea of being a human being.
innovative, and truly original reporting.
Look through a telescope and go, wow.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
People from every corner of America facing challenges.
Everyone is just looking for some type of connection.
Just raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to help.
Coming together to find solutions.
We are going to do something about it.
Their stories are our stories.
Welcome to Eye on America.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
We have an inspiring story that started with a strange act of kindness.
We found it.
You're kidding me!
We share stories that lift you up and brighten your day.
The Uplift. Stream on the free CBS News app.
Welcome back to CBS News Mornings. The time now is 7:29. Let's get you caught up on some of the news that you may have missed. The Biden administration announced plans to ease certain restrictions on Cuba. The changes will make it easier for families to visit or send money to relatives in the Caribbean country. The steel plant, considered to be the final holdout for the Ukrainian resistance in Mariupol, has fallen. Hundreds of Ukrainian fighters have been evacuated. Ukraine says there may be a prisoner exchange to get some of the badly wounded soldiers back home. And voters across 5 states will be casting their ballots in closely watched primary elections today. In Pennsylvania, that includes congressional and gubernatorial races. So turning back now to that horrific mass shooting in Buffalo. The community is mourning 10 people killed in Saturday's shooting, including a grandmother, a sister, a retired police lieutenant, a deacon, a civil rights advocate, a substitute teacher. CBS News national correspondent Jerika Duncan is in Buffalo, where she has spoken to family and friends of some of the victims. Jerika, good to see you. You worked in Buffalo for a number of years, so you know the community well, and you've been sort of knocking on doors and speaking to family and friends. What are you hearing from them?
Well, you know, Anne-Marie, you know, as our time in Philly as a reporter, that knocking on doors is never easy. You never know if it's too soon, if they realize how important it can be to also make sure the narrative gets out about innocent lives lost. So you had, you know, a couple people who they have no comment, they have no statement. You know, we knocked on the door of the man who was working security, a former lieutenant here with the Buffalo Police Department, Aaron Salter. His family still very much in shock. They even had a sheriff actually parked in front of their home to sort of field people, reporters, whatnot, coming up, asking if they had anything that they wanted to say. But then we went by an address where Roberta Drury, the youngest victim, 32 years old, lived, and her boyfriend and Drury's best friend were on the porch, and we started talking to them about what happened. And over, you just hear the sadness in people's voice. You hear the anger, especially because of how they were killed. What we're now learning more and more about the alleged shooter, the details and meticulous planning of this attack. So it's very difficult for the people who are left trying their best to make sense of what happened, and it's senseless. But they're surrounding themselves with family. Some are coming to Tops to get counseling. Some of the employees that they were offering counseling nearby at this Tops. And just really doing the best that they can. And as somebody who lived here, worked here, I have friends here that I consider family, it's going to be a tough road ahead. It really is, Anne-Marie.
I think that, you know, the thing that has hit many people, not just those living in Buffalo, was that this happened at a grocery store. I mean, it's a regular Saturday. It's such a mundane activity, right? Picking up a few things at a grocery store. And I just was thinking about the story that you did yesterday with the young man who didn't want to appear on camera. But you know, as you're talking to him, you're describing how he's shaking. And I thought, this guy's going to be suffering from PTSD for sure. But I have friends, too, who called me about this incident. And you know, one of my friends said, and she doesn't live anywhere close to Buffalo, she said, I feel hunted. And I think that there's something about the fact that this happened at a grocery store that just makes many people feel uneasy. I'm wondering if you got that, if anyone expressed that to you while you were out talking to people.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think there's also sort of a feeling for African Americans, for black people like myself, who also now feel like you really have to be on guard. You already feel like you have to be on guard in this country. And what happened here on Saturday, if you're not looking at people a second time or wondering, could you be next? I don't know what country you're living in. I really don't, because it hits close to home, not just because I lived here, but because this shooter talked about targeting black people, black and brown people, Jewish people, you know, feeling as though these marginalized groups are taking over. And I think that when you look at some of the rhetoric online, you look at people that already are supporting and sharing, and Jeff Pegay's piece, he pointed that out. It's sickening. It's really sickening and discouraging, but I think we have to lean in on more people don't show those types of that type of plan of attack, or aren't, you'd like to believe, have that type of hatred in their heart. But it's a time to reflect, but it's also I'm almost at a loss for words, because I've covered mass shootings before. And none of them are easy. Yeah. None of them are easy.
I totally understand that as well. There's so many questions that we still have, and later on, you know, here on CBS News, we're going to be digging into like who this guy was, you know, what his philosophy was, and if you can gain any understanding into what led him to that point, we're going to try to do that. Jerika Duncan in Buffalo, thank you so much. Some relief for families, hopefully coming soon, as the FDA works to get more baby formula back on the shelves. A product recall in February impacted stock, of course, which was already low because of supply chain issues during the pandemic. So Taylor Miller has been experiencing the shortage firsthand. She is the mother of a 4-month-old in Texas and has been struggling to find enough formula to keep her baby fed. So listen, you know, we've talked to politicians about this. We've talked to people in the industry, but I don't think we've talked to a mom. And I think only moms know just how much this sort of adds another layer of stress. Can you talk us through what you're experiencing and what you're seeing on store shelves? You know, because I've had conversations with other people who don't have kids, and they go, I don't know what the big deal is. You can get formula from Europe. Just buy different formula. What are you seeing?
Yeah, there's still nothing on the shelves. There's been like posts going around saying you can change your Amazon to like Canada and order, but they only have certain formulas. It's not something my baby uses. It might help another mom. So I hope the word gets out there for those moms, but there's still nothing.
So what are you doing to get by?
Since my last interview with CBS, we've had a couple people send me some of the ready-to-feed bottles. So for now, we're okay for like 2 weeks, but we're still searching. If we find what she takes, obviously we grab it, but we haven't been able to find anything.
So we know, you know, in Washington, they say they're moving as fast as they can. I'm wondering, though, do you have any hesitation regarding how quickly they are cutting through red tape to get formula that maybe they're getting from outside of the country cleared?
Yeah, I talked to a couple moms. We all have concerns on where they're getting this formula from, and even them starting up the new formula,
the plant
that they're about to produce. Like, we're just concerned on what's going on with it. Like, we just don't trust it, to be honest.
So I bet you now you know more about baby formula and the business of baby formula than you ever imagined. And we're learning that a big part of the problem is there are only a handful of companies that make baby formula in this country. And so we had one plant go down, and the domino effect was pretty quick. I'm wondering, if you start after listening to sort of news stories and so on and reading about this, do you think that, what do you think of the way the system has been set up? Do you think that the politicians have been moving fast enough to find a remedy?
Absolutely not. I don't think they've done anything, to be honest. I mean, nobody's even spoken about this until like a week ago, and this has been going on since November. They definitely haven't been doing anything. This should be like a national emergency, and it's not being taken as one.
Right.
I mean, babies are starving. Moms can't find food. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, this has definitely been reactive. Are you concerned that after the baby formula hits the shelves and you don't have moms, yelling at the top of their lungs, you got to do something about this, that this will no longer be a priority for Washington?
I guess it just depends on how much formula they put out. If they put out enough, then I guess it doesn't concern them anymore, but we don't know what to expect. I mean, we see things that say, oh, there's going to be formula in 2 weeks. Oh, it's going to be 2 months.
Right.
And then we don't know when they put it out, how much they're even going to put out, where they're going to put it out. We don't know who's going to have formula.
Right.
So I just don't know.
Yeah, finding baby formula has become like a part-time job, and clearly you already have a full-time job taking care of that 4-month-old. Taylor Miller, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
A lot of people who shop online love the buy now, pay later option, but there are growing concerns and questions about how it all works. That's coming up after the break. We're going to dig into the trend and why it can be risky for some.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
It's gonna be big!
The metaverse, the virtual world that's become a cryptocurrency casino.
It's like buying property on Mars.
Do they get an actual picture of this? No, it's a digital copy. Why would they pay for that?
Making millionaires almost overnight.
We made more than $1 million in crypto last year. I have no idea how much money I have made over the past year. That's like, wow.
Big rewards.
There's gold in them, there hills, as they say.
Bigger risks.
The market's down, but it's gonna bounce back. It's crypto.
Is it a gold rush or fool's gold?
It's our metaverse, our story. Peace out, y'all.
An original documentary from CBS Reports. Stream now.
I'm Nora O'Donnell in our nation's capital. We're here at the White House with the President of the United States.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You've never done an interview like this before.
That's correct.
Tonight, a congressional investigation sparked by reporting from CBS News. What's your message to consumers? They need help now. Tell him I feel it.
The CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell from Washington, D.C. on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
We will witness yet another moment in history.
This week on 60 Minutes, that's incredible.
The 60 minutes.
60 Minutes. 60 Minutes.
Are you ready for some tough questions?
Let me ask you this.
You know how this sounds.
What's your response to that?
60 Minutes Sundays on CBS.
The threat of severe weather and dangerous tornadoes is expected to last.
Let's get the forecast from our partners at the Weather Channel.
Here we are in our virtual view.
Now 6 feet of water, imagine that. Cars that can act like battering rams.
These hyper-realistic simulations show you what the weather will look and feel like before it happens.
This is our virtual view, what it actually looks like.
Those are some of the best graphics I've seen.
Spare no expense, Gail.
We experience the weather in a whole new way.
Go to the ends of the earth.
Right now, we got something crazy.
And reach for the stars.
Here we are. Time.
Yes, it's my comeback.
Hey, this is pretty fun.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking,
Welcome to the idea of being a human being.
innovative, and truly original reporting.
Look through a telescope and go, wow.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
People from every corner of America facing challenges.
Everyone is just looking for some type of connection.
Just raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to help.
Coming together to find solutions.
We are going to do something about it.
Their stories are our stories.
Welcome to Eye on America.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
We have an inspiring story that started with a strange act of kindness.
We found it.
You're kidding me!
We share stories that lift you up and brighten your day.
The Uplift. Stream on the free CBS News app.
Time now is 7:44, and this is a live look at New York's Times Square, home of CBS Mornings. Gail King is standing by with a preview of the show. Gail, good morning.
Good morning to you, Anne Marie. Ahead on CBS Mornings, we're on the ground again in Buffalo as the city grapples with the deadly supermarket shooting. We'll have the latest on the investigation, plus why that neighborhood in particular became a target for the racial attack. Also, the summer travel season is fast approaching. We'll ask the CEO of United Airlines if skyrocketing airfares will come down in time to book your next vacation. Fingers crossed on that. And a traditional topping, have you heard about this? It's flying off the shelves in America. In our series, A Dish, see how chili crisp is being enjoyed on everything from dumplings to, wait for it, ice cream. We'll see at 8 o'clock. And Anne-Marie Green, stealing your line. It's good to be with you.
With you, too. I would definitely try that out. I like everything spicy better. Stock futures are on the rise this morning. All three major indexes jumped at least 1% in the pre-market. This comes ahead of today's retail sales report and talks from the Federal Reserve chairman. However, a massive sell-off continued yesterday, and some of the biggest drops came from travel and casino companies. Elon Musk says that his deal to buy Twitter for $44 billion can't proceed until a showdown over bot accounts is finally resolved. Twitter claims less than 5% of users are bots, but Musk has demanded more information about the exact number. The average price of gas in every state is now over $4 per gallon. This morning, the national average is over $4.50. That's according to AAA. That's up 4 cents from yesterday and sets a new high record. 2/3 of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. As essential items like gas and groceries become more expensive, people are starting to spend money that they don't have. More and more consumers are turning to credit cards and buy now, pay later options. General Manager of Credit Services for credit and loan company Credit Sesame, Shazia Verji, is here to explain a little bit more about this. Thanks for joining us this morning. So I think this whole buy now, pay later thing has cropped up in sort of a widespread manner recently. Now you notice, like when you're buying stuff online, there's this extra little company, a little box that you can click on that I don't think was there like 5 years ago. But I don't know if people really understand. So let's talk about when you're buying online, you have many different ways to pay. You can pay on a card, or in many cases, there's buy now, pay later. What is the difference?
That's right. Well, I think the first important thing to note is that consumer debt is on the rise, and it's growing at a very fast rate. And I think it's important to note how we got here in the first place. So when consumers were supported by stimulus and other federal programs early on in the pandemic, they lined their pockets with extra cash. And this extra cash created a lot of demand, increase of demand for goods and services, and created less price sensitivity for consumers. So as demand increased and as supply couldn't keep up, prices started to rise. And so consumers are now leaning more on their credit cards for their everyday spending, and many of them are resorting to buy now, pay later options because they have 0% interest. And as we know, as the Fed is increasing interest rates, it's making borrowing more expensive. So buy now, pay later has been an attractive alternative for many consumers out there who are looking to continue their spending and kind of fulfill that demand, but potentially at a lower cost.
Okay, so you have these two options where you get to pay a little bit and still get the item that you want. First one, credit card. What's the problem with paying the minimum amount on your credit card every month?
Well, the problem with that is that you're going to incur fees, you're going to incur interest. There's a lot of, things that will build up, and your debt will continue to snowball. Especially, as I mentioned, with rates on the rise, it's becoming more expensive to carry a balance. And so typically during this time period, in the March and April timeframe, we typically see consumer kind of credit card balances decrease. But it's a completely different picture this year with balances on the rise, and that's only going to continue increasing as those interest rates continue to increase on the cards.
Okay, buy now, pay later. Usually it's like 4 easy options, and it's like for anything, like a pair of shoes all the way up to, I don't know, plastic surgery, like you name it, you can do it that way. There's no interest. The fees are quite low. The expenses are actually paid for by the company where you're buying the item from. So that seems like a really good option. How does it work? Is it a good option for everyone?
That's right. So it is typically 4 easy installments, like you said, of paying them in equal installments over a short period of time. So it's typically 4 to 6 weeks. You pay it off in a very short period of time. And, it's important to read the fine print, because although it's not positioned as a traditional debt product, it actually does work very similarly to a traditional credit card, where if you don't pay, you still incur those interest fees and charges. And if you end up not paying overall, you could go into collections. So it certainly can impact your financial situation and ability to borrow in the future.
Yeah, and even worse, if you put those 4 easy payments on your credit card, then you got to double.
Exactly.
Shazia Verji, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Actress Amber Heard is facing a tough cross-examination on the stand as the defamation trial involving her ex-husband Johnny Depp enters a new phase. We're going to have all the latest developments that's coming up after the break. Until then, we are going to take time out for you to use the next 3 minutes to download the free CBS News app on all your devices. The app gives you the best of CBS News all in one place. And before we get to that break, let's send you out with some laughs from the Late Show's James Corden talking about mask mandates.
Airline passengers will no longer have to wear masks on flights or in airports throughout the European Union. Yeah, this should make things easier. I know the French were always finding it tough to, wear masks and smoke on a plane. That's The EU advised that anyone coughing and sneezing should strongly consider wearing a face covering to reassure nearby travellers, and I feel safer already.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
It's gonna be big!
The metaverse, the virtual world that's become a cryptocurrency casino.
It's like buying property on Mars.
Do they get an actual picture of this? No, it's a digital copy. Why would they pay for that?
Making millionaires almost overnight.
We made more than $1 million in crypto last year. I have no idea how much money I have made over the past year. That's like, wow!
Big rewards.
There's gold in them, they're hills, as they say.
Bigger risks.
The market's down, but it's gonna bounce back. It's crypto.
Is it a gold rush or fool's gold?
It's our metaverse, our story. Peace out, y'all.
An original documentary from CBS Reports. Stream now.
I'm Nora O'Donnell in our nation's capital. We're here at the White House with the President of the United States.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You've never done an interview like this before.
That's correct.
Tonight, a congressional investigation sparked by reporting from CBS News. What's your message to consumers?
They need help now. Tell him I feel it.
The CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell from Washington, D.C. on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
We will witness yet another moment in history.
This week on 60 Minutes,
That's incredible.
The 60 Minutes.
60 minutes, 60 minutes.
Are you ready for some tough questions?
Let me ask you this.
you know how this sounds.
What's your response to that?
60 Minutes Sundays on CBS.
The threat of severe weather and dangerous tornadoes is expected to last.
Let's get the forecast from our partners at the Weather Channel.
Here we are in our virtual view.
Now 6 feet of water, imagine that. Cars that can act like battering rams.
These hyper-realistic simulations show you what the weather will look and feel like before it happens.
This is our virtual view, what it actually looks like.
Those are some of the best graphics I've seen.
Spare no expense, Gail.
We experience the weather in a whole new way.
Go to the ends of the earth
Right now.
We got something crazy.
and reach for the stars.
Here we are.
Time.
Yes, it's my comeback.
Hey, this is pretty fun.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking,
Welcome to the idea of being a human being.
innovative,
Da-da-da-da.
and truly original reporting.
Look through a telescope and go, wow.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
People from every corner of America facing challenges.
Everyone is just looking for some type of connection.
Just raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to help.
Coming together to find solutions.
We are going to do something about it.
Their stories are our stories.
Welcome to Eye on America.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
We have an inspiring story that started with a strange act of kindness.
We found it.
You're kidding me!
We share stories that lift you up and brighten your day.
The Uplift. Stream on the free CBS News app.
More dramatic testimonies expected in a Virginia courtroom later on this morning as the defamation trial involving actress Amber Heard and her ex-husband Johnny Depp resumes. She testified yesterday claiming that Depp physically and sexually abused her. She also told the court why she sought protection from her ex-husband.
Why did you ask for a domestic violence temporary restraining order?
I wanted to change my locks. I wanted to change my locks. I wanted a good night's sleep. Security would always let him into the house no matter what I asked them. No matter when I begged them to let me know when he was coming over, no matter how much I begged them not to let him in when he was mad or drunk or high. Hit me right in it felt like my eye. I put my head in my hands and immediately start crying. I said, "You hit me with the phone. Johnny, you hit me." And I'm sitting on the couch. I didn't even have time to react, I didn't even have time to put my hands up. I was still sitting cross-legged in my socks on the couch, and I haven't seen him for a month.
So Depp is suing Heard for $50 million after an op-ed she wrote for the Washington Post claiming she was the victim of domestic violence. The trial is scheduled to start at 10 Eastern, and we will stream it for you live on the CBS News app. Time now is 7:56. Here's what's coming up today. For the first time in decades, Congress will hold a hearing on UFOs. Defense Department officials are expected to testify before the House Intelligence Committee, and they'll talk about mysterious sightings and the Pentagon's policy for releasing information to the public. That's set for 10 a.m. Eastern. And we'll have full coverage of today's major primary races, especially in Pennsylvania and North Carolina, where candidates are fighting for crucial seats in various races for governor and for Congress. So stay with us throughout the day for all the latest developments on that. President Biden and the First Lady are visiting Buffalo, New York today following Saturday's horrific mass shooting. They're expected to visit a memorial, meet with victims' families, and talk with law enforcement. The president will also deliver remarks around 1 p.m. Eastern. And coming up in our 9 o'clock hour, we will be talking with a professor of history about the rise of white supremacist ideology like the ones that allegedly fueled the Buffalo gunman's rampage. You can stream that conversation, and it's going to be a good one at 9:30 Eastern. If you are heading out the door, take us with you. You can access all of our CBS News national and local streams for free, anytime, anywhere on the CBS News app. CBS Mornings is next, and I'll see you in an hour.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
It's gonna be big!
The metaverse, the virtual world that's become a cryptocurrency casino.
It's like buying property on Mars.
Do they get an actual picture of this? No, it's a digital copy. Why would they pay for that?
Making millionaires almost overnight.
We made more than $1 million in crypto last year. I have no idea how much money I have made over the past year. That's like,
wow! Big rewards.
There's gold in them, there are hills, as they say.
Bigger risks.
The market's down, but it's going to bounce back. It's crypto.
Is it a gold rush or fool's gold?
It's our metaverse, our story. Peace out, y'all.
An original documentary from CBS Reports. Stream now.
I'm Nora O'Donnell in our nation's capital.
We're here at the White House with the President of the United States.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We've never done an interview like this before.
That's correct.
Tonight, a congressional investigation sparked by reporting from CBS News. What's your message to consumers?
They need help now. Tell him I feel it.
The CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell from Washington, D.C. on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
We will witness yet another moment in history.
This week on 60 Minutes, that.
That's incredible.
The 60 Minutes.
60 minutes, 60 minutes.
Are you ready for some tough questions?
Let me ask you this.
You know how this sounds.
What's your response to that?
60 Minutes Sundays on CBS.
The threat of severe weather and dangerous tornadoes is expected to last.
Let's get the forecast from our partners at the Weather Channel.
Here we are in our virtual view.
Now 6 feet of water, imagine that. Cars that can act like battering rams.
These hyper-realistic simulations show you what the weather will look and feel like before it happens.
This is our virtual view, what it actually looks like.
Those are some of the best graphics I've seen.
Spare no expense, Gail.
We experience the weather in a whole new way.
Go to the ends of the earth
Right now, we got something crazy.
and reach for the stars.
Here we are.